To read the Hebrew Bible from front to back is to interact only with its surface layer. But beneath the linear narrative, Kabbalistic scholars view the text as a dense, encrypted dataset waiting to be parsed. The primary tool for this extraction is Gematria. Gematria is an alphanumeric cipher system that assigns absolute mathematical values to each of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. This is not a recent theory. For centuries, scholars have applied these calculations directly to physical scrolls, engaging in rigorous quantitative analysis. In this system, numerical equivalence is never treated as a coincidence. If two different words calculate to the exact same number, they act as a structural hyperlink. The texts are considered ontologically connected, sharing the same underlying reality. To read this underlying theological database, you first have to understand the specific mathematical algorithms used to build it. Gematria relies on a suite of at least 5 distinct mathematical matrices, each acting as a different filter applied to the exact same text. This primary chart, Mispar Heker Hahi, uses a nonlinear base 10 progression. Values scale 1 to 9, jump by tens to 90, and hundreds to 400. Next, Mispar Sudori simply numbers letters chronologically 1 to 22. Finally, Mispar Perati squares standard values, yielding massive outputs. By applying these varied mathematical filters to the same 22 characters, an analyst extracts multiple, distinct layers of data from a single word. The standard Hebrew alphabet hard caps at 400. This creates a logistical problem. How does the cipher map variables that exceed this limit? This chart shows Mispar Gadol, an expansion cipher using Sophite letters, distinct shapes at the ends of words, to continue the mathematical sequence up to 900. Conversely, the Mispar Katan counter mechanism condenses massive numbers back into core archetypes using a modulo logic. A letter worth 10 is forced down to 1, and 400 is reduced to 4. These reductions force seemingly unrelated high-value concepts into the exact same low-value numeric buckets, creating entirely new categories for comparison. The resulting architecture is highly elastic. The system stretches to map vast complexities and compresses broad concepts down to their fundamental roots. Letters in this framework possess an internal architecture, known as milui. This rule dictates that a letter's value changes based on how its name is phonetically spelled out. Take the letter he. In the absolute system, it carries a standard value of 5, but scholars calculate different values for he depending on spelling variations. The value of 6 corresponds to Yetzirah, the plane of formation. 10 corresponds to Asiya, the world of action. And 15 corresponds to Atzaloth and Bria, the highest conceptual worlds. This spelling mechanism functions as a cosmological index. It allows a single character to simultaneously address different dimensions of reality, depending entirely on how its code is unpacked. When you apply these mathematical rules to the actual lexicon, the vocabulary forms a dense semantic web. We can see this structure clearly by tracing a specific numerical value, 13. In the Kabbalistic database, the Hebrew word avava, meaning love, calculates to exactly 13. The word echad, meaning 1, also calculates to exactly 13. Because they share this identical value, the system defines love and oneness as mathematically equivalent. This leads to the macro variable, the divine name of God, Yad-Ke Vav-He, carrying a standard value of 26. 13 is exactly half of 26. By cross-referencing these nodes, the text derives a specific conclusion. 13 represents the desire for unity. The first half is actively searching for the second half to achieve the wholeness of 26. This is how Gematria builds logical, equation-based proofs for abstract philosophical concepts like love and divinity. This chart shows the tree of life. The ultimate goal of indexing these numerical values is to map the physical text onto this architecture of the Sephirot. Specific letters and their mathematical outputs are explicitly assigned to govern the 10 distinct nodes on this tree. The letter Aleph, value 1, is assigned to the first Sephirah, Kether, the crown, valued at 620. Bet, value 2, governs Chokmah, representing wisdom, valued at 73. Lower down, the value 15 links to Hod, mapping majesty to the tree. By plugging words and their calculated values into this map, a scholar can determine exactly where any specific biblical concept fits within the larger hierarchy of divine emanation. We have traced the data from basic counting algorithms through morphological reductions and finally into a highly structured metaphysical map. Gematria requires the strict execution of absolute mathematical rules. It operates as data science applied directly to theology. For the Kabbalist, these intersecting values prove the text was engineered rather than merely written. Through Gematria, a flat, linear scroll of ink and parchment is decoded into a multidimensional, fully hyperlinked database of the cosmos.